There's a lot about the 1990s that wouldn't fly today. The optimistic outlook on life, lack of paranoia, and flannels? Wow, life sure has gotten worse. The NFL, like the world itself, was a much different place in the 90s. We can see a gleam of what was to come in the new millennium, and a lot of it wouldn't make it in today's league. 90s NFL that wouldn't fly today is coming up right after this. The dominance of the Cowboys. For the last 27 years, the Cowboys have lost their status as America's team, instead becoming America's meme. The star on the helmet doesn't hold the same weight that it used to. The intimidation factor has seemed to fade away after years of getting owned by Aaron Rodgers, backbreaking Tony Romo interceptions, Des Bryant's almost catch, and whatever the hell this play was. Still laughing at you, Scooter. The Cowboys are still a factor in the NFL landscape, but you can set your watch to them getting eliminated before the NFC title game every postseason. But it wasn't always like that. The Cowboys were a mess in the twilight of Tom Landry's run as head coach, prompting new owner Jerry Jones to make the bold call to fire Landry, hire Jimmy Johnson straight out of college, and swap running back Herschel Walker for a bounty of picks. And lo and behold, that shit worked. The Cowboys became the first team to win 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, winning it all in 1992, 93, and 95. Not only did they win, but they did it in style. Jimmy Johnson talked the talk, and the team walked the walk. Even when Jerry Jones inexplicably fired Jimmy Johnson for not kissing his ass passionately enough, the team was so good that Barry Switzer could pick up and do mostly nothing as the Cowboys won a 3rd Lombardi. He did most all of nothing. In typical Cowboys fashion, their 101 wins in the 90s came with a few antics, a lot of drugs, women, and something with Michael Irvin and a pair of scissors. Lack of instant replay. The ability to correct one's mistakes is a fundamental part of what makes us human. But for the most part of the 1990s, that wasn't possible for NFL referees. And it's not that official reviews weren't a possibility in the NFL in the 1990s. They were. The league had simply decided they wanted no part of it. The NFL first instituted instant replay in the 1985 preseason, finally sticking with it a year later in 1986. But after 6 seasons of the Zebras sticking their head in the booth to look at a 12-inch monitor, the NFL reversed course in 1991. 17 owners decided that replay was delaying the game too much and didn't necessarily equal correct calls often enough for it to be useful. Imagine a world like that. Y'all would never shut up. So starting in the 1992 season, the league reverted back to the Stone Age when some old guy's eyeballs had authority over the ability to stop and rewind time itself. One of the most iconic playoff games of the decade likely would have gone in a different direction had replay been available. When the Packers met the 49ers in the 1998 NFC wildcard round, an all-time great nearly fumbled the game away in the final minute. With 45 seconds remaining, Steve Young found Jerry Rice on a crossing route and lost the ball as he went to the ground. When Fox showed the instant replay, it was clear that a Packers defender had jarred the ball loose before Rice's knee touched grass. But with no replay review in their arsenal, the original call on the field was permanent. And just 4 plays later, Young hit Terrell Owens for that iconic game winner. The next season, replay was back. The owners made sure of it, voting 28-3 in replay's favor. And speaking of 28-3, celebrities on the sidelines. The sideline is a sacred place where you can punch your fellow coordinator, smash a Microsoft Surface, or call the National Guard because you're killing the Patriots.
National Guard, we need as many men as you can spare because we are killing the Patriots.
But for one team in the 90s, the sideline wasn't reserved to just the team. The 1991 Atlanta Falcons were a special team, not because they were the best team in the NFL, they went 10-6 and won a wild card game, but because they had style, attitude, and a famous rapper roaming the sidelines. MC Hammer released Too Legit to Quit in September of 1991, along with a music video that featured both Jerry Rice and Falcons cornerback Dion Sanders. The song became an anthem, the rallying cry for a talented Falcons squad that had dreams of winning a wide open league. Head coach Jerry Glanville allowed the Hammer to roam the sidelines mid-game, and other celebs like James Brown and Evander Holyfield populated the area alongside Sanders, Jesse Tuggle, and a 22-year-old rookie named Brett Favre. Sure, Texas football lets Matthew McConaughey on the field, but nowadays you just don't see A-listers rubbing shoulders with NFL players during an actual game. And guess what?
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Two-sport athletes. Dion Sanders may have been spending time with MC Hammer, but he was also splitting time with another team. Another sport, actually. It gets glossed over by history because Dion was so good at football, but he was actually a serviceable outfielder in the MLB. When he wasn't picking off opposing quarterbacks in Atlanta, San Francisco, and Dallas, Neon Dion was manning the outfield for the Yankees, Braves, Reds, and San Francisco Giants. Back in 1989, Sanders actually became the first man to score a touchdown in the NFL and hit a home run in the majors in the same week. He also hit an inside-the-park home run as a Yankee in 1990, and coincidentally enough, the ball sailed over the outstretched arm of the original two-sport legend by the name of Bo Jackson. A little bit more on him later. Sanders claimed recently that professional baseball was much harder than football, a claim that I can certainly back up. But despite toggling back and forth between two sports once in the same day, Sanders put up a pretty respectable career, batting .263 and clubbing 38 home runs. His peak in the MLB came in 1992 when Sanders led the MLB in triples in just 97 games, hit over 300, and posted an OPS of 841. That same year with the Falcons, Dion picked off 3 passes and was named as a Pro Bowler and a first-team All-Pro. Not bad. Sanders also played in the '92 World Series. In just 4 games, Dion collected 8 hits, 2 walks, 5 stolen bases, and an RBI as the Braves fell short against the Blue Jays. Sanders is often forgotten about in history because of Bo Jackson, whose football career actually ended in 1990 and baseball career ended in 1993. Nowadays, teams simply don't have the need for two-sport athletes, nor are many equipped to go through the rigors of more than one sport in a year. And as you saw with Tim Tebow, it's just better to have a one-sport athlete. And finally, 90s NFL that wouldn't fly today, film cameos from QBs. There are athletes who excel at two sports, and there are great athletes who become talented in other fields following their playing careers. NFL greats like Joe Namath, Jim Brown, Nnamdi Asomugha, and of course O.J. Simpson all became master thespians after they hung up the cleats. But in the 90s, a lot of them dipped their toes in the movie waters while they were still playing, usually portraying the toughest role of all, themselves. It all started in 1994. 2 months before Courtney Love murdered Kurt Cobain, we still had a reason to laugh, and Jim Carrey had treated the American public to another riot in his newest comedy, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Carrey was tasked with rescuing the kidnapped Miami Dolphins mascot Snowflake, and to do so, he receives help from Hall of Fame quarterback Dan Marino. Marino might be the greatest pure passer to ever live, but his acting was not quite as natural as his quick release.
He's the one you want. Kill him.
No, kill him.
No, kill him.
Kill him.
He held the ball, remember?
Marino was as stiff on set as he was outside the pocket, and he's about as likely to win an Oscar as he was a Super Bowl ring. 4 years later, we got another cameo from a Hall of Fame quarterback in one of the funniest movies of all time. When the Farrelly brothers were casting There's Something About Mary, they had their eye on 49ers quarterback Steve Young, who ultimately passed on the role of Cameron Diaz's love interest, objecting for religious reasons. I guess the Mormons wouldn't have been too fond of the old semen on the ear gag. Enter another great quarterback, one with much looser morals. Packers legend Brett Favre makes an appearance in the final minutes of the movie, looking about as uncomfortable as he did in overtime of the 2007 NFC Championship game. Like Marino, Favre was better under the lights of Lambeau than he was under the lights of a film set. After Favre stole whatever money they gave him for acting, he went back to stealing money from poor people to build a volleyball court for his daughter. And fuck you, Brett Favre. The best we've gotten since the 90s was a brief, very robotic cameo from Russell Wilson in the Entourage movie, or Tom Brady yelling at Mark Wahlberg in Ted 2. And again, Tom Brady in a movie basically about Tom Brady, which was kind of trash. Nowadays, the closest we get to active quarterbacks in films are Jackson Mahomes' shitty TikToks, which I assume is the reason he's going to jail. Shit, maybe the 90s were better in some ways. Until next time, I 5 Points Vids, and you made it to my next video.